This week is all about creating your own luck, and that's because Jupiter is stationing retrograde this week as well. We're going to be dealing with a little bit of conflicts, a little bit of problems, because Mercury, now that it's retrograde, is going to conjoin Mars. This is going to be a little bit frustrating, but a lot of this is about having a little bit more faith and suspending your ideas of what is logical and what is rational and just trusting the process. And I think that's a really big, important theme with Jupiter stationing retrograde and being a little bit more focused on your hope, on your faith. And I think as Mercury is retrograde conjoining Mars, there's going to be this kind of frustrating moment where you have to kind of let go of logic and rationale, and you do have to be a little bit more faithful in what you're doing. And by the end of this week, we will be having the sun make a trine to Jupiter. So this week is a little bit Jupiter focused. So let's just go ahead and get started talking about it. Welcome back to the astrology report, this time for November 10th through November 16th of 2025. My name is Cam White. Again, if you don't know me already, I like telling you about what is going on in astrology. I like teaching you guys astrology. I like showing you how to use it to improve your life. So if you're interested in things like that, make sure you comment, subscribe. I'm going to give you guys a cue of what to comment here later on in the video. And let's just go ahead and get started talking about it. Again, this is the last week that you can sign up for the Real Relationship Astrology live course. This is going to be a 4-week live course where I teach you everything that I've learned about relationships and astrology, where I've been able to predict when people are going to get in relationships, when they're going to meet people, when they're going to get married with accuracy. I've predicted over 20 pregnancies. I've predicted divorces, and I've shown people how to actually use their chart to benefit and enhance their relationships. So if you want to be able to actually predict and know when you're going to get in a relationship with accuracy and not just looking at your 7th house, like I have clients that could speak to how accurate I was about this. If you're interested in that, this is a 4-week live course where we're going to be going over everything within relationships, including things like synastry charts and composite charts, where I'm going to show you the differences and how to use them to enhance your relationships and be better in relationships. Yes, this live course is for people who are single or who are in a relationship and they want to use astrology to enhance that. This is something I'm really excited about, and the opportunity to join the course ends on Tuesday at midnight, or Tuesday at 11:59 p.m., so technically right before the clock hits Wednesday. So if you're interested in that, make sure you sign up. The link is in the description as well as the pinned comment. The opportunity to join ends on Tuesday on 11/11, so make sure you guys sign up for that. This is going to be a really great course, and I'm excited to see you guys over there. So this week actually isn't all that big of a week. Last week was crazier, and next week is super crazy, but this week is kind of chill, except for 2 things, which is Jupiter going retrograde and the Mercury retrograde conjoining Mars. But we start Monday off with the moon in Cancer, making that conjunction to Jupiter. It's going to trine Saturn. It's going to trine Neptune. Then later on in the morning, the moon is going to enter Leo. It will then go opposite Pluto and it will trine Mars. And then the moon is going to square Venus and trine Mercury. A lot of emotional moon stuff happening on Monday morning, okay? The moon's going to conjoin Jupiter and trine Saturn and Neptune. And there's kind of like this having hope and being a little bit dreamy waking up on Monday morning. But as the moon goes into Leo and it goes immediately opposite Pluto and starts to trine Mars, there's like this excitement. There's this, maybe it's just because I'm a Leo, but I love the moon and Leo transits. The moon being about emotions, and the moon is also about like our hidden parts of ourselves, right? But it's going into this very visible sign of Leo where it's about kind of like presenting your emotions almost. And it goes immediately opposite Pluto. And I've actually been really enjoying these Leo Aquarius oppositions because a lot of this is about like overcoming fear of being seen, overcoming fear of being known. And you kind of see that in the zeitgeist right now in society with everyone, turning to social media, posting more on social media and things like that. And as the moon trines Mars, there's this real primal energy going on. Like Leo is a bestial sign. Sagittarius is a bestial sign. Technically, it's half beast, half human. But there's this real primal, excited energy that's happening where there's some confidence, there's some, pizzazz, there's some riz or whatever. There's a lot of like fun and passionate energy going on Monday. Now that passionate energy will continue, but as the moon is in Leo, it will make a square to Venus after it trines Mars. And the moon in Leo squaring Venus in Scorpio is like, it doesn't look the way that you wanted it to. Like an analogy I think of is like how girls will kind of like buy a dress or they'll do their hair in a way that they saw, online somewhere. And it just didn't look the way, like it doesn't look good on you or just didn't come out the way that you were anticipating. That's kind of the moon in Leo making a square to Venus in Scorpio. There's a little bit of like, hey, you're putting yourself out there, but you don't really have that shit on. But that's okay. You're going to have to get over it. Because as the moon leaves that square to Venus and starts to trine Mercury, you just have to laugh it off. If you are like, I think it's going to be really easy to be hypersensitive this week, especially to like verbal confrontations and things like that. The key with Mercury and Sagittarius is laughing it off. Like, you can't get too into your head about things. Otherwise, you're just going to like, pretty much lose your mind. But that brings us to Tuesday. The moon, while it's in Leo, is going to make a square to the sun in Scorpio. And we get our first highlight of the week, which is Jupiter stationing retrograde. Now, as the moon is in Leo, making a square to the sun in Scorpio, there's this kind of big thing between being seen versus being hidden. The sun in Scorpio likes to be a little bit more hidden, but the moon in Leo wants to be a little bit more seen. So there's this tension between like what you want to put out to the world or how you want to be, seen by other people versus like, well, what are you hiding from others? So there's going to be this tension of like really asking yourself, should I let others see this part of me that maybe I'm scared to expose? Scorpio literally rules the genitals, and those are something that we don't really expose all that often. And with the sun being there, where there's like, again, illumination on what is hidden, and the moon also illuminates the dark and illuminates the night, and it is also an invisible sign. There's a lot about Tuesday about just like letting yourself be seen, and it's a little bit raw and it's a little bit uncomfortable, but that's just what it is. And there'll be some tension around that, but I think you're going to be able to live. I think you're going to be able to get through it. But we have Jupiter stationing retrograde. Now, I have a lot of nuance around Jupiter retrograde in particular, because what I've always seen is as Jupiter moves forward, it's like things are kind of happening to you, meaning, whether there's some sort of abundance or opportunity that's given to you. And Jupiter retrograde is like, okay, you've got all these opportunities. Make do with what you have. Make hay while the sun shines. Now you have to create your own luck based off of these resources you've been given. With Jupiter in Cancer, this is Jupiter exalted. So when it comes to hope and abundance and faith and opportunity, even if it seems like it's not good on the surface, this is, according to the astrology, at least according to the astrology. Now, as Jupiter does go retrograde, you'll probably notice a shift in terms of maybe it's not necessarily easy, but you're going to kind of be forced to go a little bit more within. And what's interesting to me is Mercury is in Jupiter's sign, and it is also retrograde. And now Jupiter is retrograde, where there is this bigger theme of rethinking our faith, rethinking what it means to believe, rethinking what it means to trust. And there's a lot of this that like you just have to trust. Jupiter in Cancer is like emotions and safety. And as Jupiter is retrograde in Cancer, there's this kind of like, you kind of have to create that safety on your own. You have to create a space for yourself to feel like you can have faith, you can have trust rather than feeling insecure or weak. And so Tuesday's kind of a shift in terms of the meta view that you have of the world. I think a lot about Jupiter is the greater benefic. So, Venus is the lesser benefic. Venus is more of like, oh, I like luxuries and I like, material items and I like, sex and food. Jupiter is more of the greater benefic, like genuinely being able to have a relationship with God or the universe, whatever you want to say, and being able to trust that process and be able to let go of your problems and let go of your strife and be able to give it to a higher power. And so as Jupiter's retrograde, there's this opportunity to really tap more into that. And you have to tap into it more internally rather than being like external about it. You're not necessarily going to see a lot of the, necessarily just like good things happening to you and it's easy to believe things. You have to believe it in order to see it. That's really the key with everything, but that's really the theme during these next few weeks while Mercury is retrograde in Sagittarius and Jupiter goes retrograde is you have to believe it before you see it. Also, Tuesday night, last opportunity for you guys to sign up for the Real Relationship Astrology. Like I said before, synastry charts, composite charts, we're going into zodiacal, releasing all this stuff. You will be able to walk away with this if you're single, being able to predict when you're going to get in a relationship. If you are in a relationship, you are going to be able to figure out how to actually work with your chart and your partner's chart and together to enhance that relationship, to be able to combat bad times and be able to work through them in a positive way and be able to enhance the good times. As well, I've got my own kind of my own work that I've done on this in terms of like how I've actually coached people, my clients, with relationships. That is something I've never seen any other astrologer talk about that I think is working really, really well. And the clients that I've done it with, that's going to be a little bit of a secret. But like I said, Tuesday night, last time to sign up, make sure you guys join. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, it's a 4-week live course. So we'll be doing all of the presentations live where you can ask me questions and we can go into your charts and all of that. Classes start at the end of this week on November 16th on Sunday morning. So I will see you guys there. Then we get to Wednesday, and on Wednesday morning, we have Mercury, now that it's retrograde, actually making that conjunction to Mars. Then later on in the day, the moon is going to square Uranus and Taurus, and then the moon will go into Virgo and start to square Mercury in Sagittarius. So Mercury retrograde on top of Mars. Just basic stuff is going to be yelling, arguing, things like accidents happen a lot with this kind of stuff. But the big thing is, while Mercury is retrograde on top of Mars, knowing when to not get too frustrated, knowing when to not get too heated. And the thing that I was thinking about is later on in the day, the moon goes into Virgo and it squares Mercury. You're going to want to have more details. Like I think I said this last week, where if you're going on a trip and the destination is where you want to go and you're really excited about it, but you're nervous, you feel unprepared, you feel like, well, you know, when I get there, where am I going to go? Where am I going to stay? What's the itinerary? What's the plan? You're not going to have that. And you need to be able to suspend that. And I think with Mercury retrograde on top of Mars, this might be the day where you get that insight where like, there is no plan. There is no itinerary. You're just going to have to go. You're just going to have to figure it out for yourself and enjoy the process and trust that. And I think that's going to be really hard. Like, have you ever been in a situation where you're like, no, I want to know the information. No, I want to know what's going to be next. You're not going to get that, even if you think you can get it. As Mercury conjoins Mars, there's going to be this kind of, again, like I said, it almost reminds me of taking off too fast. That's something else I wrote too, is going a little bit too fast, where you fuck up some of the details, you forget some important things, and that's going to kind of frustrate you or make you kind of question what it is that you're doing. But that's not the goal of this. That's not the point of any of this. You know, Mercury, whether you think you're prepared or not, Mercury's in detriment and it's retrograde on top of Mars. Something's going to frustrate you. That's just the end of the story. And it's about how you deal with that is what's important. You know, there's no avoiding it. It's just more so of like, okay, well, I don't have this prepared, or, you know, this doesn't necessarily make sense to me. How can I just trust this process? How can I create that faith and that belief inside of me without needing the external world to validate it immediately? That's really going to be the challenge. And that continues while the moon is in Leo, making that square to Uranus. You know, the moon in Leo, it's like at 29 degrees, squaring Uranus at 29 degrees Taurus. It always reminds me of, you know, you're doing a big presentation on stage and something just kind of goes, you know, wrong, and it totally disrupts the show. And if you're a bad performer, that will make you really insecure. You'll get frustrated, versus if you're a good performer, you'll just roll with it. And so there's some sort of like emotional disruption that happens on Wednesday as well. And then as the moon goes into Virgo, there's going to be this like wanting to be detailed, wanting to be organized, wanting to be attached to like these physical items and feeling like you need to cross all your T's and dot all your I's. But it's going to square Mercury while Mercury's retrograde. And I think this is going to be the moment where you see what you missed, what you didn't like, you know, again, it's one of those moments where you get to the hotel after you left, or you arrived at your destination, and you go, oh, I forgot this, I forgot this, I forgot that. That's what Wednesday night feels like. And I just want to emphasize how much of this is going to somewhat be a little bit frustrating. Like, oh, I can't go here or do this because I don't have this detail, I don't have this detail. And you like, the whole point of this is like, you just got to go. You just got to be wild about it. Like, that's what's fun about Sagittarius. It's very primal and wild. Like, who cares about the details? Like, just get dirty with it. But that brings us to Thursday. While the moon is in Virgo, it's going to then square Mars in Sagittarius. It's going to sextile Venus in Scorpio. And then the moon is going to conjoin the South Node. This is the part of the week where you get an opportunity to have a little bit of a breakthrough. When the moon's in Virgo, squaring Mars in Sagittarius, this is like it almost reminds me of a kid who doesn't want to go to school or daycare. You know, if you have kids, maybe you've had an experience where they're like crying, like, I don't want to go here. I miss my mom, or I miss my dad, like something like that. And you're kind of like, hey, kid, I get it, but like, go, like, you're going to be fine. Well, the moon's in Virgo squaring Mars in Sagittarius. It's going to be this resistance to moving forward because it doesn't make sense, because it's not clear, because there's not a plan, and you need to have a plan, and it needs to make sense for you. But you guys, if you want to live in like, there's a saying that I've known for a long time, and it's been really sticking with me, is the pessimists get to be right and the optimistic get to be rich. And you can interpret that in so many different ways. And that's the thing with like Mercury, is like, well, technically this isn't correct, and technically this, and technically that, but you're not happy. Like, would you rather be happy or right? Parker, put the video that I put up here. This is an important watching if you are part of the Cam White Astro universe. Would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? And I think as the moon's in Virgo squaring Mars in Sagittarius, you're going to want to be right. Oh, I need this. Oh, I need that. And guess what? If you feel as if you need to have these things, then that's what you need. But you're going to be miserable. This is a challenge and an opportunity to be like, you know what? I'm going to suspend that. And let me tell you why too. I get comments all the time that like, you lecture too much. Okay. Like it's always funny to me. It's like, what are we doing here? You guys, people, they're like, just get to the astrology. This is the astrology. It's not, okay, Moon in Virgo, squaring Mars Sagittarius, you're just going to be, frustrated and mad, and then we just move on with life. Here's an opportunity to actually grow and progress into a better version of yourself and to not get so upset about certain small things. As the moon squares Mars, that's going to be frustrating. The moon then sextiles Venus in Scorpio, where now we're coming back to that theme of going without pleasure. Now we're going into that theme of, enjoying processes or enjoying things that may not necessarily be pleasurable, like attaching pleasure to pain in order to get a reward from it. And so I like the moon making that sextile to Venus because it's kind of like this do it anyway attitude. And the reason I said there's an opportunity for a breakthrough here is there's this kind of emotional confrontation where it's like, oh, I got to have all these things together. And Mars and Sagittarius is like, no, we're going here. The moon is then going to sextile Venus and Scorpio. It's like, make do with what you have. And then later on Thursday night, the moon conjoins the South Node in Virgo. Something I haven't talked about in a couple months is the South Node in Virgo and the North Node in Pisces. Remember? Do you guys remember? I've been talking about this since January. The South Node, which is this spiritualizing, intuitive, but draining thing, is in Virgo, the sign of like details and specifics. This is not the time to be like, I need all the information. The North Node's in Pisces. It's like, I want to just believe more. I just want to have more, faith. I just want to have more spiritual fulfillment. And as the moon conjoins the South Node later on Thursday, this is that opportunity to really check in with yourself. You'll have a moment where you can be like, you know what? I don't need, I feel like as if I need to have these things, but I'm going to make do with what I have. And as the moon conjoins the South Node, you're going to realize, I actually don't need all these specifics. I don't need all the details. I don't need to feel like I have my ducks in a row in order to move forward. It's something I'm really excited about. I shouldn't say excited. Something that I'm enjoying is there is now more of a zeitgeist online of people talking about the work-life balance thing being bullshit. And I completely agree. If you're looking for a balanced life, you're going to never find fulfillment. Balance sometimes looks like 80% into one thing and 20% into another. And then being able to switch that and adapt that. And I look at the moon conjoining the South Node in Virgo as like, you're going to realize you don't actually need these things. You're going to realize that the lie that you tell yourself that it needs to look a certain way, it needs to make sense, is holding you back. It's been really hard not saying like retarding because, people get all fucking butthurt about words. But like what I mean like retarding in terms of like genuinely holding you back, like restricting you from things. And this is a really excellent opportunity to be like, you know what? I'm just going to let go of this and I'm going to live in the moment. I'm going to make do with what I have. And you're going to realize you don't actually need all of these specific things in order to go where you want to go, in order to do what you need to do. A lot of us prioritize this. Well, I need to make this list and it needs to make sense and all of this before we actually do the thing. Planning for the thing is not doing the thing. Researching the thing is not doing the thing. Understanding the thing is not doing the thing. You have to do the thing. That brings us to Friday. Well, on Friday, the moon's going to be in Virgo. It's going to sextile Jupiter. It's then going to go opposite Saturn. Then it's going to go opposite Neptune and then trine Uranus. Look, after the moon makes that conjunction to the South Node and it starts to sextile Jupiter, there's this level of like, you know what? I don't have everything on my list. I don't feel like I have everything prepared. But how can I be grateful for what I do have? Like, it's the same thing too. I've talked about this before in terms of like prepping. Like a lot of people are really, freaking out about the state of the world. And you just need to do something to scratch the itch, right? Have some emergency water, have something, right? Some emergency food. But when you feed into the fear too much, you really lose the plot because there's only so much you can do. And I look at the moon in Virgo sextiling Jupiter in Cancer is like, what's going to make me feel just okay? The moon's then going to go opposite Saturn in Pisces, and it's also going to go opposite Neptune, where it's like, okay, can you make do with just this little bit? Can you make do with just this little bit, or are you going to have resistance to that? And I think there is going to be some resistance to that, but that's going to be for you to navigate. The moon's then going to make a trine to Uranus. You're going to be like, the moon trining Uranus is like discovering you actually had something that you didn't realize. Like this happens to me all the time when I travel. I'll open up my backpack and I'm like, oh, I didn't bring this. And then in one of my bags, I have exactly what I was looking for. It's like, oh shit, I've got that. Cool. I'm not worried about it. That's the vibe. Friday's a little bit like, coping in a sense where you're gonna be like, all right, like I'm nervous, I'm anxious, but I can make do with this. And even though it's really hard, I'm going to figure it out. And then at the last second, something ends up working out for you where there's some sort of something working out that you weren't expecting, and that feels a lot better. So you have to just trust that on Friday. There's going to be some sort of solution if you just trust it. And so we like that. And that brings us to Saturday, where on Saturday, the moon's then going to ingress into Libra. It's going to make a trine to Pluto. And then the moon is going to make a sextile to Mercury and Mars. Moon in Libra. Let's relax a little bit. Let's enjoy relationships a little bit more. It will be somewhat different because Venus is now in Scorpio, where let's say, the moon is about our emotions. It's more important for us to connect with relationships with the moon in Libra, but Venus is in Scorpio, where there might be this look at like, okay, what is the quality of this connection? Am I stuck in something? Am I investing a lot into this that is seemingly scary but good for me? Is there this, I don't like this connection anymore? It really depends on each one of your circumstances. But as the moon goes into Libra, there's a little bit more of like, okay, I could be a little bit more peaceful. I could be a little bit more balanced. It trines Pluto. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of empowerment with the relationships that are around you. And then the moon makes the sextile to Mercury and Mars, which is really charming, in my opinion. The moon in Libra, sextiling Mercury and Sagittarius is just being able to make funny jokes, being able to, be quick with it, like in terms of like, snapbacks or references, whatever it is. And the thing I wrote down was like graceful wildness. The right people that you can hang out with can like take some jokes. And I think the moon in Libra, sextiling Mercury and Mars, is just being able to like joke around, enjoy things, have a little bit more of a fun adventure. That reminds me of a story I have of a really crazy adventure I took one time as a kid, but that's a different story. I don't want to get too lost into that. But I like Saturday. I think Saturday is really fun if you allow yourself to have that fun. But that brings us to Sunday. And on Sunday, we're just going to be having the moon, while it's in Libra, make a square to Jupiter later on in the evening. So the moon is just going to be applying to Jupiter for the majority of the day. And really late in the evening too, the sun makes a trine to Jupiter. So I've said this before, Jupiter and Saturn always station retrograde or direct when they are trining the sun. So this is like the sun formally meeting up with Jupiter. And the thing I wrote down was like depth creates trust. The sun, which is about our willpower and our vitality, right? Our energy, our drive, our life force. It's in Scorpio, which is like really sinking our teeth into something, really kind of going extreme with it. And as it trines Jupiter, there's this somewhat of a connection of like, when you can go that deep with yourself, with other people, with what you're doing, it creates room for safety, if that makes sense. A lot of Cancer, this is something we're going to talk about in the relationship course too, is like women are ruled by the moon and their primary mode is going to be safety. And Cancer and the moon are all about like safety and protection. And you can feel safe, and you could feel safe in a lot of different ways. But Scorpio is kind of like, oh, you're safe because I will kill anyone for you. That's a very basic way of looking at it. And I think the sun in Scorpio is allowing yourself to go that deep enough to feel like you are safe to explore your emotions, to explore your beliefs, to kind of heal some stuff around that. So I really like the sun trining Jupiter here. Like I said, this is the part of the month where we're starting to get really deep into like what I said before. This month is like a deep therapy session. We are absolutely purging out the demons. We are absolutely getting deep within ourselves. And I think the sun trining Jupiter is allowing that safety to explore that by like entrusting a certain level of depth, of emotion, of pain, and being like, you know what? This is a safe space for that. And the moon squares Jupiter. The moon in Libra being very focused on relationships, making the square to Jupiter is like, how do you open yourself up to more? How do you open up yourself to be able to express more, to enjoy more, to believe more? And again, moon squaring Jupiter, not bad at all, but you'll kind of notice, how can you give someone the benefit of the doubt? How can you give someone, something I've seen a lot in relationships is just like, can you carve space out for your partner or your spouse to explore what they need to and be able to encompass that space for them without being like, well, they're bad. They're not doing good right now. So now I'm not doing good. And now I want to break up with them. It's like, well, can you allow them that space to explore that part of themselves and to go through this small time, to go through the small era? And so anyway, the moon squaring Jupiter at the end of the day is not bad. I just think it's an opportunity for you to like look at not only relationships, but just everything in general and say, can you have room for more? And I think you can always have room for more. Holy shit. Next week. Oh, by the way, if you got this far, what emoji should you comment? I should do like a test one. Let's do the airplane emoji. Any of the airplane emojis, since we've talked a lot about doing trips this week. But guys, next week, listen to this. Sun is going to make a trine to Saturn next week. Mercury is going to go back into Scorpio next week. Mercury is going to trine Neptune. Mercury is then going to go opposite Uranus. Then we have the Mercury Cazimi and the new moon in Scorpio right on top of each other. If you saw the Mercury retrograde video, I talked a lot about that. That's a really big deal. The sun will then go opposite Uranus. The sun will then move into Sagittarius, and then Mercury trine Saturn and Jupiter. Next week is like, we're in this therapy session. We're fucking doing it. And it's going to be pretty deep and extreme. There's going to be a lot that we're going to learn that is going to be, I think, fun, because who doesn't like going into the deep, dark stuff? Anyway, so that's what's going on this week. Like I said, Tuesday's the last day to sign up for the Real Relationship Astrology live 4-week course. I'm excited for you guys to be there. I'm excited to talk about this, and I'm excited for you guys to know what the fuck is going on with relationships for you and when you're going to get in one or how to better enhance your relationship. So with that being said, I'll be seeing you next week.